Londra'da Berenberg gelişen piyasalar hisse senedi stratejisti CARSTEN Hesse bizleri bekliyor. CARSTEN, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you very much. I would like to start with the recent market reaction among emerging markets after we saw ECB tapering procedures and also the tax reform from United States. What do you expect to see in terms of volatility? Do you expect that volatility we saw in the recent 2 days to move on?
Well, definitely both events were very positive for emerging market investors. The ECB has learned from the Fed mistakes in 2013 when the taper tantrum really negatively impacted emerging markets. But this time the ECB has very well prepared the market for its tapering. And therefore yesterday's decision of cutting QE in half was even seen as slightly dovish. So markets reacted positively to that. And also in the US, coming now closer to the important tax reform, this will really boost the US economy and therefore also help emerging markets.
But when we look at the emerging market currencies, we see some huge volatility, and Turkey is one of the suffering ones. Do you expect that to be hurt? Because when you look at Turkish economy's macroeconomic parameters, they seem well.
That's right, yes. I mean, the Turkish economy is growing at double the speed compared to European average, so it's doing really well. And also the Turkish equity market has done pretty well year to date. It's up around 30% in US dollar terms, which is in line with emerging markets, but outperforming emerging Europe. But you're right, over the last weeks, the Turkish lira has weakened again, and there are several reasons for that. For one, inflation is higher than expected. Second, the current account deficit might move up again because the oil price has increased. And thirdly, there was a diplomatic dispute with the US which concerned some investors. But overall, you're right, the Turkish economy is doing really well. Emerging markets overall are doing really well. Therefore, we see continued influence or markets, the funds going into Turkey, which should then help the Turkish lira in the long term.
When we look at last year, at November, after Trump was elected, we saw some huge depreciation among emerging market currencies. But after some time, after the markets stabilized, we saw a huge rally from emerging market currencies. Do you compare this time period with last year?
Yes, I mean, last year, first, the market was very concerned that the Trump administration would reduce global growth. But trade barriers haven't increased so far, and therefore the markets relaxed afterwards. And I think that, in general, global growth is doing really well, and volatility levels have come down, and that's an environment where investors want to take risks. And that's when emerging markets are performing well. So, I mean, there are always some country-specific issues, like, for example, now in Turkey. But if you take them aside, then emerging market currencies and markets should perform really well over the next 1 or 2 years.
CARSTEN Hesse, thank you very much for joining us today.
More than welcome. Thank you.